What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Doe Show. It's your boy Dame D, and I am back with another one. Today, I'm going to be talking about when will Black people understand that our lives are not valued outside of the Black community. And before I start talking, I'm gonna wait for people to come in and join in. I invited a few guests, but I'm gonna start the show before they come in because they may or may not come in. So I'm not gonna wait on the people that I invited to come in. I'll just start the conversation, but I will wait for a few people to jump in. Before I start the show. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to check my audio and video to make sure I can be heard. So give me 1 second.
Opposite Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys. Do you regret?
Turn that down. My bad. Yep. So what up, though, to everybody out there, man? Good happy Saturday. Good what time is it? Well, good afternoon now. It just turned 12 o'clock. I was about to say good morning, but now it's afternoon. So let me see, are we live? We should be live. I was not showing that we're live. Okay, so I'm turning up checking its volume to make sure we're good and people can hear us. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Okay, we can be heard. So I'm gonna turn this on down. I'm gonna come out. So yeah, what's going on, y'all? What up, though, everybody? Happy Saturday. Hopefully, everybody had a great Friday leading up to the weekend. What's good with everybody? I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your boy is still closing down on 1K subscribers, and I cannot do it without you guys. Just want to come in, man, and just have a good conversation, a good talk. And this is leading up, and this conversation is going to be kind of streaming from the this Rick Child situation. The Asian man who shot the young boy in the back for actually nothing. He picked up a water bottle and ran out the store. And you have a lot of people, you have a lot of Asian people that's coming out now that's speaking, kind of bad about the Black community. And like I said, this conversation is stemming from that. I have a video that I'm going to play, but and I'll just name a few things why I say Black lives are not valued, outside of the Black community, because the court system shows that. How many times have we saw a young Black man shot in the back, from running away from a situation, whether he has a gun or not, because like I said, and we say this time and time again, it is not illegal to have a gun. So what, he may have had a gun, which we're hearing that this young man didn't even have a gun. They chased this young boy away like damn near over 100 yards, and shot and killed this young man. And then not only that, we do shows over here. We've done multiple shows over here on the What Up, though, about young Black men being shot in the back. And when we go through the court system, they're always found not guilty. And this is with police officers too. It's not just with the officers. It's with anybody else who commits a crime against a Black man. The court system shows that our lives are not valued outside of the Black community. And that's a clear example. The same thing with this Carmelo Anthony case that's getting ready to come up. And we as Blacks, we have to be mindful of this. Our lives are not valued outside of the Black community because, for one, every time it's a shooting of a Black man and it's clear evidence that he's running away and he's been shot in the back, what happens? He's always found not guilty. And that's clearly showing it. Rather it's and we got to do something about this too, you guys. I don't know what's going on with this, and I know it's enough Black people registered to be on these juries. We're putting our young men in front of all white juries, so you already know the court system is set up for us to to not prevail. It's set up for us to lose. Therefore, that's why we're always getting these verdicts against us. You know, because for one, every time it's a black man in court, he's not, his peers does not look like him. You know, he's in front of, like with the same thing with this Rick Child situation. How could this jury come back with basically saying that this was a credible shooting? You know, this young man was running away. You know, like I said, we've heard multiple cases of young men being shot in the back, and the court system always comes back. I'm saying that these shootings are justified. Excuse me, guys. My throat is a little dry. But yeah, you know, so that's pretty much where all this is coming from. You know, it's the court system, man. We've allowed for our counterparts to set up these court systems that that does not weigh in a balance. You know, they have this balance. These court systems is like this. It does not weigh in the balance of African Americans, you know, because we see it right there. They run the same exact play on every case that you see a young man is shot. You know what I mean? They're always trying to say that he had a gun. What's illegal about having a gun unless you're a felon? You can't have a gun. So that excuse, you know, we need to look. We got to be more smarter. We're allowing them to, you know, run bullshit on us. They've been running the same play since the beginning of time, man. You know, and now they're allowing store owners to, you know, not just the police. It's trending down, coming down to the store owners, business owners, and just regular citizens that they'll allow to shoot black men running away in the back, or just, you know, straight up, you know. So this the court system pretty much at the end of the day, man, it has been showing us that our lives are not valued the same as our counterparts. You know, because like I said, every single case that we've done over here on this show, or every even case that we saw this upcoming year, I mean, this year, you know, we've done multiple cases with the Ryan Hinton situation, a young man that was shot in the back and his father went out and hit the police officer. It shouldn't have never got to that. You know, this man was clearly shot in the back. And every single time when we go through this court system that is not set up for us to win, this happens every time. So we have to do more of trying to get more black people on this jury system. I mean, yeah, on these juries, man, because that's what's been failing us. You know, we have a system that's set up for, you know, I'm not going to say for us not to be on the jury system, but it's just not enough black people that's you know, that's being called to be on these juries when it's dealing with, you know, black men. You know, it almost should be a must that it's kind of half and half. You know, that's how we're getting the short end of the stick. You know, we're facing all white juries, you know, against, you know, our counterparts, you know, so we'll never win in situations like that unless it's a clear, you know, and most of these cases have been clear cut cases that, you know, these young men were shot, men and young men were shot in the back. I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinion on that. I have a video that I actually want to play too. The Asian community is coming out and they're speaking out about this, you know, and this is the perfect time for the black community to be able to have our own nail and spa salons and things like that, to have our own Chinese restaurants. You know, we can put these things in our communities. We don't have to, continue to let, you know, non-blacks come into our communities, get rich off of us, you know, for over 50 to 60 years. You know, they come into our communities, take the money out of the communities, do nothing for the communities, and that's it. You know, they, like I said, they rape the communities of our money and do nothing for the community at all, you know, so really, and don't like us, you know, and it shows. Like I said, the court system is set up to protect, you know, everybody but black people. And it shows, man. You know, with this whole Carmelo Anthony case coming up, they've already selected the jurors, and it's all 12 white juries. He's not going to have a chance in hell to win this case. You know, we have to stop allowing for for it to be all white jurors. You know what's going to happen. It's been the same play after play, and we've been falling for the same tricks that we've been falling for, since I've been alive. And our leaders do nothing about it. They should be smart enough. If I can come up with, if we can come up, if we can see this as clearly as day, our leaders should be, pitching the bitch about that, trying to change certain laws and just getting certain shit in, because the whole court system is set up for us to fail. We have so many young black men that's behind bars, because they were upon all white juries, their peers are not, these peers are not looking like us. That's why, we're always getting the short end of the stick, man. Like I said, and this shows in the court system. It shows when a black man is running away and gets shot in the back and they're finding the shooters not guilty. Because if the shoe was on the other foot and this shit went to court, guess what? They're going to find us guilty. So we have to stop falling for these plays, man. We have to shut these motherfucking businesses down that's in our communities, because they mean it's no good. They come and get money, they run out of the communities, they fund the money back to their people. They don't even show appreciation in the communities at all. And I'm not going to speak for all, but it's mostly all. And like I said, I have a video that I want to show of this Asian man. So give me 1 second. I'm getting ready to bring this up, and we're gonna so here we go. I want you guys to listen to this. And this is pretty much how a lot of these guys feel. Here we go.
In our neighborhoods, we're in white neighborhoods, boycott Asian businesses. Please do. You guys want us to leave the neighborhood so bad? Oh, Asian people are in our neighborhoods. We're in white neighborhoods. We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Koreatown. You think we really need you guys to benefit off and make money? I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty ass attitudes, okay? Please boycott Asian business.
Dealing with nasty ass attitudes, meaning he's speaking to black women. I'm gonna let this play.
You guys want us to leave the neighborhood so bad? Oh, Asian people are in our neighborhoods. We're in white neighborhoods. We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Koreatown. You think we really need you guys to benefit off and make money? I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty ass attitudes, okay? Please boycott Asian business. I'm all for it. Boycott Asian
and I'm
business.
gonna go ahead and
please
pause.
do.
I'm gonna go ahead and pause that and stop that. See, and this is what most of this community thinks about us. Nasty ass attitudes, and he's talking about our black women. Because our black women are the ones who frequently visit these salons and things like that. But I want to give a shout out to Beck Nails. They put this up. This is a black owned spa and nail business. So we need to be able to create more businesses like that and put these businesses out of our community. Because like I said, at the end of the day, man, they mean it's no good. The government allowed them to come and the black community set up, take all the money out of the communities and leave the communities pretty much in a worse situation than what they were, before they got there. So at the end of the day, man, I just want the comment section is open. I definitely need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your boy is closing down on 1K subscribers. I just want to talk about this, because like I said, I woke up this morning, this came through my feed, and I was just disgusted about that. I'm like, we definitely have to do something about both ends of the stick, not allowing these businesses to thrive in our communities. We can put our own, and this is this right now is the perfect time for black people who have money, who's been looking to start a business and invest in the business. This is the perfect time for us to do that now. We spend billions, our women spend billions of dollars buying wigs, getting their nails, their lashes and stuff done by these Asians, and we can do this shit. Why isn't there enough black businesses in our community that's doing this? So we have to be mindful of all this. So like I said, this is the perfect time for us to be able to start our own black owned Chinese restaurants and things like that. Because like I said, at the end of the day, they do not respect us. Only thing that they want from us is our money, and that's it. And we've allowed the government to allow, I'm just going to be honest, the Asians, the Arabs, the Chaldeans, they're all in our communities, taking money out of the communities. This money does not stay in the community, and we failed as a whole. And we've somewhat allowed this to happen, because we do not have to, patronize these stores. And guess what? It's a nigga at an Asian restaurant right now eating. It's a black woman walking into getting her nails done by Asian business. And it's ridiculous. We have to do better as a community. And then we have to recognize this court system, man. This court system has failed us time and time again. And it's corrupt. We're living in a corrupt system that is not designed for us to win. We have to recognize that. Like I said, man, outside of black people, no one else value our lives, and the court system shows this. When will you ever see a white man running away and get shot in the back and it goes to court, and that shooter is found not guilty? You will never see that. And then another thing, let's just ask this question. When did you see black officers in white communities chasing down white boys or shooting them in the back? How come you don't never hear about black officers shooting and killing young white men? Because they won't allow for that shit. The court system won't allow for that shit to happen. So we have to start taking justice into our own hands. When shit like this start happening, when motherfuckers shoot our kids or our men in the back and the court system don't take up for us, we have to start taking up for ourselves. Because at one point in time in this country, if they wanted a nigga, they would go to the jail and pull him out and string him up in front of everybody and kill his ass. And I'm not condoning any violence or anything like that. I'm just saying we have to make a change financially. That's the only thing that we can possibly do without doing anything, without anyone getting in trouble, I should say. But at the other hand, man, we have to start taking a lot of this stuff in our own hands, man. Our men and women just been out here in these streets getting murdered, and there's no justice really in the court system. Now and then you may we may win a few cases here and there. But mainly, man, what I'm talking about is just the unjust with these police officers being allowed to, just go out there and blatantly shoot men in the back, unarmed men, things like that. And now you have store owners, and this has been going on in Detroit for a long time. This is not one of the first times we're hearing, that a non-black person shot a black person and got away with it. We as a community, we have to stop that. We have to run these non-black businesses out of the communities and replace them with black businesses. Like I said, this is the perfect time for us to open up our own nail salons and our own black Chinese restaurants. We no longer need them in our communities, and it's mainly our women that's been keeping these businesses thriving, especially these nails and lashes and eyelash places and things like that. So we have to do better, you guys, because we're living in a society where everything pretty much is against us. So we have to start, doing better, like far as just trying to I'm not gonna say do for our own, like far as just trying to start our own businesses in the communities, because it's too many black people out here with money that can invest in these salons that we know. Listen, we know a lot of black businesses fail, but we know that these eyelash, these nail techs and things like that, those businesses will strive. Why isn't there, just like how you see these Asians and stuff out, nail salons in every mall, on every corner, they should be replaced with black nail salons and things like that. All these Chinese restaurants we see in the neighborhood, they should all be black owned Chinese restaurants or soul food restaurants. Because what's so crazy, when have you saw a group of Asian people come into a soul food place? Every now and then you may see that, but you never really see that at all. So that should be a perfect example of how we're not valued. Like they don't want to spend their money at our businesses, but yet and still we'll go out to their business and spend hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, in non-black businesses. It makes no sense at all. That's why we're losing as a group, as a whole, because our government has us separated from each other. We don't even want to spend with each other. And that's a smack in the face, that we can't even spend with our own people, and we allow for other races to come in the community and start businesses, and they prosper. They prosper to the point where I saw corner stores where the kids were kids, and now they're running the business and they don't have kids, and the parents, they've retired, and you have the younger generations running the stores, man. All the mom and pop stores that we used to have in the community, we were pretty much hoodwinked up out of that. Now you have these liquor stores that's serving food and soul food and things like that, catering to us. When this should be us catering to us. I don't understand that. We do everything backwards as a whole, and that's why we get no respect from other communities. That's why you have Asian motherfuckers coming on social media talking shit like that, because they've made the money. They've already gotten rich, off of us. So, now, they can talk shit like that. But it takes us to be able to take that power back. We give them the power by patronizing these businesses that does nothing for the black community at all, but take out of the black community, monetary wise is what I mean. None of these businesses, at the end of the day, has no fundraiser for the kids, no giving back, no trying to raise school supplies. None of these businesses that we patronize does this for the black community. But I guarantee you, in their community, they will definitely not patronize. They do, like I said, you will never see Asian people in the soul food restaurant buying food. You'll never see them in the community spending money. But you'll definitely see a lot of black people in these Asian nail salons and nail techs spending money. And these Asian stores getting wigs, eyelashes, and things like that. We spend unnecessary money with people that do not like us. And I don't understand that. So if we can't come together after this situation and shut all these motherfucking stores down and replace them with black-owned businesses, at the end of the day, all the women that's, independent and getting money, why aren't there more nail tech salons, more beauty supplies, black-owned beauty supplies? We've let them dominate. We've let them get rich to the point where they don't respect us at all. Only thing they respect is that dollar. They follow us around the stores. They always think we're coming in there stealing. And things like that, man. So and it goes from the businesses on down to the court system. We are not respected at all outside of the black community. And we need to realize that, our leaders know this. They continue to collect checks and don't raise up issues like this, at all. And we continue to put our young men and men in front of all white juries when we're being judged. That's why a lot of our people are locked up now. I need for you guys to comment, man. The comment section is definitely open. I need to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Hopefully, I know you guys can hear me. I checked that. So give me your thoughts, give me your opinion on this, man. And like I said, all this is stemming from this Asian man who made that comment about how the Asians don't need to be in the black community, how they have their own community, and they don't need us, so we need to show them, okay, y'all don't need us, y'all don't need our money. All right. But I guarantee you, today is Saturday, I guarantee you all these beauty supply stores are filled up with black women patronizing. And it's about understanding what's going on, and that's where we go wrong as a group, as a whole. We have to understand that only thing that we can control to be able to shut certain shit down is with it's monetary wise. You know, we have to use our power monetary wise to be able to shut this shit down. You know, when we shut shit down, we should have blacks that's in place with money to be able to replace these businesses. You know, we have too many blacks that's making money out here that should be able to replace all these non-black businesses with black businesses. You know, we need to start sending our kids to more of our children to school to be lawyers and judges. We have to change the demographics of these court systems. That's the only how these court systems are going to change and start ruling for us, if you start seeing a lot more of us in these court systems. You know, it's dominated by white society. That's why we always getting the short end of the stick, and we have to realize that. And what was so crazy, man, you had a black lawyer that represented Ray Child and represented him good. You know, so look, man, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let's get this out here. You know, this needs to be talked about. This needs to be heard. And it only can happen by you guys liking and sharing. You know, and I know a lot of our black women don't want to hear this, but, you know, most of the money that's spent in the black community is spent from our black women patronizing these agents, beauty supplies, and things like that. You know, and I'm gonna just be honest, even our women spending money, you know, with a lot of with these African braids. You know, we a lot of those businesses, they come into the community and set up shop, you know, with no regards of, you know, the blacks that's here. You know, they send their money back to their land from where they're from. You know, so we need to start patronizing and spending money with people who live in the community, who look like us, and who want to do better and see the community do better. And that's it. You know, we've allowed, and the government has allowed, you know, for all these other races to be able to come in the black community and set up shop and get money and take money out of the community. You know, because you don't see a bunch of liquor stores with Arabs, a bunch of Chinese stores out in the white communities at all. You know, they're not going to allow them to come out and dominate their communities. You know, but yet and still we allow all these other non-races to come out and dominate monetary wise in our communities. You know, we should be winning like how they're winning. Most of these businesses, they're winning. They're getting money. They're making millions, you know, off the backs of, you know, our people. You know, so like I said, this is a great time to be able to start replacing these businesses with black-owned businesses. You know, so we have to understand, man, that our lives are not valued by these people who come in our community that want our money. You know, because if it was, it would show in the community. You know, they would be out there trying to do things to uplift the community. You don't see Asians, you don't see Chaldeans, you don't see Arabs out in the community trying to do anything, trying to uplift or turn the community around. You know, they're going to do it in their community. You know, so really it's up to us. You know, and I understand this. You know, this is something that we don't understand. We wait on the government, or we wait on others to try to come around and change our circumstances or demographics, you know? You know, so that's all I'm saying, man. You know, we have to do a better job at where we spend our money, you know, because like I said, at the end of the day, we control these businesses' destinies in our communities. You know, we let them come in our communities, thrive, you know, make millions. You know, and these millions are coming out of the pockets of, you know, of blacks in these communities. You know, even the cleaners and things like that, man, they've capitalized on every single opportunity, every business in the community. You know, you know, every business that you see in the black community that's being ran, it's being ran by non-blacks. And most of these businesses does not respect the people in the community, you know, and it shows. It shows from situations like with this Rick Child situation, you know, $1 water, even if, you know, and I'm not going to say even, this young man did not steal anything. He walked out of that store. They chased him up out of there, and the court system still allowed for him to be just for that shooting to be justified. You know, if the shoe was on the other foot, if it was a black man who chased a white man, a white 14-year-old boy out of that store and shot him in the back, they probably would have hung him up that same day. The white community would have been in an outrage. And they would have been in an outrage of the verdict. You know, so just imagine when things like that happen in their community and they're in an outrage. You know, things change. You know, and we have to do the same thing by making changes. You know, only thing that's going to stop shit like this is by making changes. You know, we have to get, you know, all these people out of our community that's not for the community and start replacing these businesses with black-owned businesses. You know, I'm not saying, yeah, I am saying that. You know, we have to replace all these businesses that's in our community that's taking out of the community, get them out of there, you know, because they don't respect us. I'm just going to be frank with it. You know, and then with the court system does not respect us, you know, and it's been showing in these verdicts. You know, like I said, again, let a black store owner, let a black man chase a white 14-year-old boy out of the store and shoot him in the back. What the fuck you think gonna happen? Give me you guys' opinion on that. I would love to hear anyone's opinion on that. You know, what up though to everybody on Facebook? What up though to everybody out there on YouTube? You know, but like I said, man, I would love to hear you guys' opinion, your thoughts on this. You know, time and time again, we have let our counterparts run the same exact plays on us, and we fall for this shit every time. You know, and it should be an outrage. It should be immediate outrage to the point where they should be fearing for their lives. You know, so look, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, man, we have to make a change, and we have to, you know, start putting this in our youth's head. We need more lawyers. We need more people to be on these juries, because that's what's been railroading us. It's a lot of our people that's been locked up, you know, on things that they, you know, that's been getting time from facing all white jurors. You know, now if you guilty, you guilty. I don't give a fuck if it's all white, you know, and if you done something wrong, you deserve to be punished for that. You know, but a lot of our people has been facing juries that do not look like them, and we've been getting guilty verdicts every single time. Like again, this Carmelo Anthony case that's getting ready to happen. They've already selected the jurors, 12 white jurors. What do you think is going to happen? You know, and this young man said he feared for his life. You know, every time they say that, you know, they get a excuse me. Every time an officer says he feared for his life, it's always a justified shooting. You know, but again, I want to ask you guys this opinion and give me your opinion on that. Why don't you see black officers in white communities shooting white men in the back, or just shooting white men, period? Because they will not allow for that. The court system will not allow for that shit to happen. You know, so we have to start getting more black people on these juries, you know, because this court system is railroading our people by this jury system. You know, we need more black prosecutors, you know, because the prosecutors failed the family of that young man. You know, when it's a black man, they trump on 1,000 charges to at least make sure 2 of them is going to stick. They did not do that in this case. You know, and that's why I say, you know, outside of the black community, no one values our lives. And it even shows, like I said, in the court system. That's a perfect example to show how our lives are not valued. It's through the court system. You know, and we've allowed our counterparts to set up this court system that's not for us. You know, in this jury system. You know, we have to start getting more blacks onto these jurors. because that's really at the end of the day what's been going on. We've been getting judged by our counterparts. So what do you think is going to happen in this Carmelo Anthony case? He's going to get railroaded. Yeah. So, and that was the same thing that pretty much happened with this young man. The judge should have actually, it should have been a mistrial. The jury, they was ready to get out of there. They was ready to go. It took them. Normally in situations like that, it's always a mistrial. But the judge put them back in there. He forced them to come back with a verdict. So again, man, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your boy is closing down on 1K subscribers. And again, the topic is, when will Black people understand that our lives are not valued outside of the Black community? And the perfect example of showing that is through the court system. Perfect example. This jury system is horrible. We have to start doing a better job at getting more Blacks onto these juries. We need more judges that looks like us. We need more prosecutors that look like us, because like I said, this prosecution, they failed this family. They should have trumped 1 million charges on this guy until they would at least were to be able to get 2 or 3 of them to stick. And that's what happened. That's why this man was able to walk free. So now, most of society is going to be thinking it's open season, on shooting and killing Black people. Real talk, which the court system has already showed that. So you guys need to be careful. The court system has showed that they don't mind finding people not guilty, when shooting and killing Black folks. So we have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful where we're committing these crimes at. Because most likely they're putting these juries are being selected in communities where it's predominantly white. Because I know it's enough registered Black folks to be called for jury duty. And that's crazy. That we're outnumbered in that. We're outnumbered in the whole court system alone. So we have to, and so in the near future, man, we have to do a better job with, preaching this to our youth, trying to put more judges, in place, trying to put more prosecutors in place, because at the end of the day, man, our counterparts are not going to have any sympathy or empathy, and they do not have any sympathy or empathy in these court systems for our young men and men at all. There's no second chances given, like how we see second chances given to our counterparts. Yeah. So it's going to take us to make a change. Our Black women are at a point now where they're winning. We've seen so many successful Black women. How come we can't see these same Black women out here with these nail salons and these beauty supply stores? Melanie Thompson, did you hear about the young girl in Georgia kidnapped by a false police officer? I did not. I'm gonna look it up though. Thanks for sharing that. So Melanie, tell me, what do you think about this whole court system and how our lives are not valued? Okay, Melanie Thompson said a truck driver saved her. Okay, that's awesome. Now, was it a young Black girl who was kidnapped? Yeah, but yeah, man, we have to start doing a better job. We need to have more of these successful Black women, opening up these beauty supplies and things like that, because we patronize these businesses too much to the point where we've gotten them rich. They don't even respect us no more. They know that we're going to come, and that's what's so crazy about that. And you even heard this guy, and I'm gonna play the video again for people who did not see this. Let me set this up. Because these Asians, they have no respect for us. So I'm going to share this one more time for those who may have not seen this. All right, here we go. So, all right, here we go.
You guys want us to leave the neighborhood so bad? Oh, Asian people are not neighborhoods. We're in white neighborhoods. We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Koreatown. You think we really need you guys to benefit off and make money? I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty ass attitudes, okay?
See, and this was directed directly at black women with nasty ass attitudes. This is what they think about you, and this is how they feel about you. And we still go and patronize these businesses.
Please boycott Asian business. I'm all for it.
I'm gonna let it play
Boycott
one more
Asian
time.
businesses. Please do. Look, guys, you guys want us to leave the neighborhood so bad? Oh, Asian people are not neighborhoods. We're in white neighborhoods. We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Koreatown. You think we really need you guys to benefit off and make money? I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty ass attitudes, okay? Please boycott Asian business. I'm all for it.
Now you heard him, guys. Please, let's boycott these Asian businesses. You know, like he said, they do not need our money. He said they're in white neighborhoods to get the money. You know, so we have to prove them wrong. We have to go out and do exactly what we're talking about. We have to stop patronizing these businesses that does not value the community. You know, because this store owner, he did not value the community. He did not value the life of this young man who was running away from the situation over supposedly a dollar bottled water, you know, that was not taken at all. You know, so, and like I said, at the end of the day, man, the court system has shows that our lives are not valued at all. You know, so we have to realize that. You know, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your boy's closing down on 1K subscribers. We have a few people in here, you know, and I definitely need you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. But yeah, man, we need to do a better job in our communities by not patronizing these businesses that does not value the lives of black people. You know, we allow, and the government has allowed for these businesses to come in the community, take over, and take the money out of the community and does nothing for the communities. Like I said, at the end of the day, you know, I can see if, during school time, when school year's up, you see none of these Asian restaurants, you see none of these Chaldeans or Arabs trying to raise money for back to school and things like that and backpacks. It's only us. So that alone should, right there should let you know how much they respect us, or that they do not respect us. My bad. But yeah, man, you know, I just want to come in here real quick and talk about that, you know, because when that came through my feed, I'm like, okay, this need to be put out here. You know, our people need to see this and we need to hear this. You know, like I said, we have to change this court system. You know, we're being railroaded by the jury system. You know, it's already set up for us to fail anyway. You know, it's all a trick. It's all a setup at the end of the day. You know, with this whole court system. You know, so we have to do a better job, man. You know, we have to put more blacks on these in these juries. We have to we need to start seeing more black men on these judge panels. We need to see more black prosecutors, you know, and more black lawyers. I mean, well, I'm not going to say that. You do see a lot of black lawyers out there, but we need to see more. You know, and that's the only how we'll be able to change situations like that with these court systems. If you start to see more of us on these juries, you know, because that's how they win. You know, they'll overload these juries with predominantly, you know, white jurors. And it's always going to be a W for them every single time. You know, like I said, we got this Carmelo Anthony case coming up. I don't know if you guys were following that, but that was about the young man who ended up stabbing and killing the white boy when he feared for his life and was protecting himself. But you know, they've brought an all white jury back. You know, so in this case, it's getting ready to start. You know, same thing that just happened with this Rick Child case. You know, so we have to do a better job. You know, because our counterparts are not going to do it for us. You know, and that's real talk. We have to do it on our own. We have to start putting more black businesses. Like I said, our black women talk about how much money, how independent, and how successful they are. Let's start seeing more nail You know, and these businesses are making money. You know, they're thriving. These are thriving. You know what? And these are not just businesses, you know, that most black businesses that open up and fail. These are businesses that we know that will strive in the community. You know, so we have to we cannot allow other people to come in our communities and thrive with businesses like this. You know, and especially those that does not respect the black community. Okay, we got a new comment. Hold on. Okay, Melody Thompson says yes. Okay, so I think I asked you was she black. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that, Melody. You know, and you've been having a lot of black people coming up missing, you know, in these southern states. You know, I've done multiple shows on that. You know, so you guys definitely have to be careful. Hopefully, I'm glad that young woman was found. You know, but definitely be careful. Do your due diligence. Watch your children. You know, but you know, back to this. I'm not going to be long, man. I just want to come on here and give my opinion on this situation. You know, these Asians in our community are prospering and thriving. We need to shut these businesses down and replace them with black-owned businesses. You know, because it's only right. You don't see a lot of black-owned businesses in white communities at all. I'm quite sure if you go to Chinatown, you will not see a bunch of black businesses thriving in that community. You know, so look, man, like I said, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Your boy is definitely closing down on 1,000 subscribers. I need for everybody that's on Facebook to come over here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Do your boy a favor. You know, I want to thank Melody Thompson for her comments today. Melody, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not already not. You know, but yeah, we have to do a better job, man, at getting more people onto these jury systems because, you know, we've been getting railroaded, you know, since the beginning of time. You know, this court system has been set up for us not to win. You know, and only way that we will be able to win. Color has to Remel 792 said color has nothing to do with this case. Color has everything to do with this case. You know, and that's crazy. Tell me why you think color doesn't have anything to do with this case. You know, because like I said, at the end of the day, if this was a black man who chased out a 14-year-old white boy that was running away from the scene and shot him in the back, trust me, it would be a whole different verdict. And you know it. And it's not a crayon box mentality. It's the truth. You know, how many white people have you known to be shot in the back by somebody and not found guilty? That's a fact. You know, so and it shows that the court system does not respect the lives of black people. Because if they did, more of these juries would come back with guilty verdicts. You know, and that's why I'm sitting here talking to my people, you know, trying to explain that we need to have more black people on these in these juries. You know, because at the end of the day, we know it's set up for it to be, you know, mainly all white juries, you know, and you know what's going to happen, you know, when you have a black man that's coming up against, you know, an all white juror. And that's just a fact, man. You know, and everything has to do with color and race. You know, don't let that fool you. Everything, you know, because that's how white societies profit off of race. You know, so you can't say that's a fact. You know, everything has to do with color and race. You know, because if it didn't, it wouldn't be a such thing as color or race. We would just all be treated as equal. Whites would see blacks as it wouldn't even be, like I said, we wouldn't even look at each other far as color wise. You know, so like I said, color has to do with everything. You know, that's why we're separated because of color. You know, and it wasn't blacks who did it. It was your people, you know, who set these boundaries. You know, but yeah, man, I just want to come on here for a little bit, talk about that. You know, these Asians, are getting out of control with what they're speaking. They have to respect who's patronizing your stores. It's not white folks that's coming in there spending millions of dollars every year. It's blacks. So they got to respect that. And if they don't respect that, we have to take that black dollar away and put it back into the hands that which it come from. The same thing with these white-owned businesses in the black communities. We have to do the same thing. Like I said, at the end of the day, you do not see a lot of black-owned businesses in white communities or Asian communities at all. So why do we allow for this to go on in our communities? And the same thing with this court system. It's going to take us to make a change. White people are not going to make a change for us. No one's going to come and save us. No one is going to come and change the situation but us. We have to get out of that mind, that mentality that we've been pretty much in since the beginning of time. It's like we've been brainwashed to think that, someone is going to come and save us and change the circumstances. It has not happened. It never will. It's going to take us to change these circumstances. And that's it. Because Rick Child would have not even pulled that gun out and shot that young man when he ran out of the store if he had respect for the black community. Because first and foremost, he would have feared what the law would have done to him, and then he would have feared what the community would have done to him. And there's no way that he should have expected for his business to continue, after that shit happened, and that's a fact. His business should be no more in that community. And that's what we have to do, man. We have to do this state by state, man. We have to start, our women and men, we need to get together, man. Like I said, these beauty supply businesses, these nail spas, these are businesses that thrive. These people are making millions off of us. Why can't we do that? Yep. So we have to start taking, things into our own hands, and with all these killings, like I said, I'm not condoning any violence or anything like that, but, we have to start taking justice into our own hands when justice is not served. So, and it starts with monetary way, we can start with monetary, so we've allowed for these businesses to set up in our community. They're making millions off of us, and most of these businesses that's in the community are not valuing the lives of the people in the community. So yeah, man, I need for you guys to make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button as you come in. Your boy is closing down on 1,000K subscribers. It's a goal that I set out 2 years ago when I started this YouTube journey. Yep. So, but yeah, man, I would love to hear you guys' opinion on this whole Rick Child situation and on this whole Asian community. The Asian community speaking out about this Rick Child situation. Give me you guys' thought. Do you think that Rick Child was justified? That shooting was justified? And if you think it was, give me your opinion on. In my opinion, I don't think the court or the jury system values the lives of black folks. Because if they did, we would not see, blacks being shot in the back, and these things going through the court system, and these shooters are being found not guilty. Yep. So we have to make a change, and the only how that we're going to make a change is making a change. Like I said, getting more of our children into politics, getting our more of our youth into the justice system, trying to get more prosecutors, trying to get more judges on these benches. We definitely have to do a better job at getting people registered, to be called for jury duty. We cannot be avoiding jury duty because we're getting railroaded in that game. It's all a game. And that game, that part of the game, we're being conquered. Our young men and women have no chances when sitting in front of these all-white juries. You know, now at the end of the day, if you're guilty, you're guilty. I don't give a fuck, you know, who you sitting in front of, you know, but a lot of these cases that we've been watching, you know, with the whole with that Ryan Hinton situation, you know, the young man that jumped out of the car and was shot over, I forget how many times, but was shot multiple times in the back. Clearly it showed that he was no threat to these officers, and clearly the court system says otherwise. You know, so like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to us to be able to change the circumstances, you know, of this unjust court system, you know, and then make these businesses in our community respect us. You know, if not, put them out and let's change. When we put them out, we should be ready to replace them with Black-owned businesses. You know, and I've been seeing a lot of Black-owned Chinese restaurants. You know, all on social media, so it can definitely be done. You know, and we definitely have to change the demographics of this beauty supply market and this nail and eyelash market. You know, because the Asians has dominated; they've making millions. You know, while we're spending. Yep. So we have to do a better job, man, protecting our youth. You know, and just protecting our communities. You know, we have to care first. We have to start caring. You know, and that's the problem. Most of us don't care. We allow for our communities to fall apart by not caring. You know, so it starts with, you know, caring about your community, caring about the people in your community. You know, so for people to come on here and say color has nothing to do with that case, it just shows the character of that person who said that. You know, because everything has to do with race when it's dealing with white and blacks or blacks and non-blacks. You know, so like I said, man, I hope you guys have been hitting that subscribe button. Your boy is closing down on 1K subscribers. Like I said, it was a goal that I set out a few years ago when I started this. So, and I cannot do it without you guys. It doesn't cost you a penny. It's free. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, man, it's going to be up to us to change the demographics of our communities, to change the demographics of this crooked court system. We have to be able to get more people on these juries. You know, when we're in these courtrooms, man, because that's what's been railroading us, you know, and the prosecutor, we need more black prosecutors too. You know, he railroaded that Rick Child case, you know, because when it's blacks that's being tried, they're gonna have 1,000 charges trumped up upon you, and you know, maybe 4 to 5 of them will stick. That's what they should have did in that Rick Child case. That did not happen. You know, and that comes from just the respect and the non-respect that they have for our lives. So look, man, I just want to come on here for a little bit, talk to you guys about that. I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. The comment section is definitely going to be open. I would love to hear you guys' comments, your opinion, your thoughts on this. Here's another one. This is your boy, Dame D, and I am out. Peace.